Guys, welcome back. So today's video, as you can probably already guess from the title, is me essentially talking about all of the things that I like in cozies. Now this list, first of all, it's going to be all over the place. Some of it is like hyper specific. Others are like a little bit more generalized, but I really wanted this video to be more of a discussion because obviously everybody has their own preferences when it comes to books, when it comes to cozies, of things that they love. And so I figured this would be a great opportunity for us to share them. So I'm actually going to start off and tell you all the things that I love, and then I'm actually going to go through the responses that I got when I put out a call to Instagram asking you guys the things that you like, so that I can kind of share with the rest of you what everybody has said. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the things that we love in cozies. Okay, so I have the memory of a goldfish. And that said, I'm going to be looking at my phone a lot because that's where I've got all of my talking points for things that I love. So bear with me. And like I said, this list is in no particular order. I was really just kind of flying off of the cuff of my pants. And actually, a little bit of story time because I want to tell you all how I kind of came about the idea of this. I actually just finished reading a cozy mystery. It's called Let It Be by Nancy Coco, and I absolutely adored it. It's the first book in the series, and it got me thinking about things that I just love. Like whenever I come across them in books, in cozies, automatically I'm like, yes, it gets a brownie point, kind of like an extra tally mark, a solidified extra star. And so that said, I feel like there are a variety of things that are on everybody's list when it comes to that. So first thing that I love are sidekicks that help the amateur sleuth solve the mystery. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, each story has its own amateur sleuth. It's usually the main character, and more often, well, not more often than not, but many times it's just that person going at it solo. They are the one doing the main investigating. There are maybe some side characters, but for the most part, it's our amateur sleuth who is going around town asking questions, being the only one. Nothing wrong with that, but what I love are stories that have sidekicks where they are helping the sleuth do the investigating. So perfect example that comes to mind is Lance from the Bake Shop Mystery series. He's kind of peer pressuring Jules a little bit to kind of stick her nose into things, but on many occasions he is actually alongside with her as she decides to interview people, very subtly of course, or investigate different places that they think that they might find clues at. And I just think it's really fun because it becomes you know, kind of this witty repartee between the two of them being up to no good. And just kind of piggybacking off of the book that I just read, Let It Be, the main character has an Aunt Eloise, and she's also one that helped her kind of look and dig into the clues as well. So that's one of the things that I love. Yes. Okay, so this next one is a big plus for me, and that is when the sleuth works with the police force as opposed to not necessarily against them, but where they essentially butt heads. So this one is a little bit tougher because one of the main tropes in cozies is the fact that the amateur sleuth obviously is digging in and doing the police's work, and so a lot of the times law enforcement frowns against that, understandably, but there are some occasions when it's done well. Again, I hate to keep quoting Bake Shop, but it's like the perfect cozy mystery. But that's a really good example, to be honest, because Jules works with the police. They have come to trust her, and so when they divulge tidbits of information, they know that she's not going to use it against them or take advantage of knowing this stuff. And it's reciprocated because when she finds out stuff, she will go to them when they think it's pertinent. But, you know, obviously she kind of does her own investigating in tandem. And I absolutely adore that. Another example that comes to mind, and honestly, it kind of depends, but I'm going to go and quote Murder, She Wrote for this, more specifically when she's investigating in Cabot Cove, because as we all know, Sheriff Medgar, I'm can't say it right. And even Amos Tupper from like the earlier episodes slash seasons, they rely on her expertise a lot. And I just love that because again, I just like seeing the camaraderie between characters, and it makes it more for a harmonious mystery solving experience, and I'm here for that. Next we have, oh yes, okay. I love, and not to say I dislike the opposite, but I love in a cozy mystery when the murder happens almost immediately. You would think that that would be the case for a lot of them, but to be honest, there are many cozies, especially when you get kind of later into book series where the murder happens later on in the book, because they do a lot of time or spend a lot of time setting up who's going to be the one who's axed. You know, we have to see them being strongly disliked and see their things that they've done to where everybody would have a motive, and that's all fine and good, but I love it when it just jumps off and it's like, boom, here we go. So, you'll usually get that in the first book because they want to hook readers right away, but it just hooks me so quickly, and I'm already along for the ride because I'm like, okay, it's happening, buckle up, let's go. All right, so next we have, okay, this one might be a little bit of a hot topic because there are two sides of the fence that you might fall upon. But when we're talking mostly, well, not all the time books with recipes, but what I love is when it is kind of a foodie cozy or cozy where the author kind of sprinkles in factoids or tidbits or how-tos. I like when that's sprinkled in throughout the chapters rather than all at the end. Now, again, I know lots of cozies have their recipes at the end, but to be honest, if I'm listening to it in audiobook format, or even if I'm reading it print, when I get to the end, that's it for me. Like, there might be an author's note, there might be the recipes, but like, my mind is already done and moved on. I'm ready to look for my next book, and so I will just kind of skip over them. Whereas, if it's sprinkled, within the chapters or between each chapter, I'm a lot more inclined to pay attention or become interested, even if I do have to go back and read them if I want to kind of make or try my hand at it. Again, I'm going to quote Let It Be, the first book in the cozy that I was just talking about, for doing this, because instead of having all of these recipes and tips at the end, the author does a fabulous job sprinkling it in between chapters. And then beyond that, this cozy in particular, it's not just recipes in the sense of things you can eat, but it's also like how-tos and DIYs for all the ways you can use honey. So like you might get a recipe for some kind of beverage, or you might get a little factoid about what honey can do and its healing properties. Another recipe might be how to make a lip balm, and I loved it. And because I'm like involved in the story and actively reading about the store, I'm paying more attention to it. All right, so this next one, very broad, very general, very obvious, and that is I love anything bookish in cozies. I like bookish cozies, I like cozies about authors. I like when cozies aren't even book related, but then they like sprinkle in some tidbit about the character passing like a little free library. Perfect example is Bree Baker's Seaside Cafe series. That one's obviously about an iced tea shop, but in the, I think, first book, there are references to the town's little free library, which is like so cute and so charming, and it just puts a smile on my face every time I come across one of those references. Okay, and then lastly, before I kind of dive into all of you all's input, is I love in cozies when there is Stephen King level excruciating minutia detail of what's happening or what the scene looks like. I know that that's technically one of the aspects of cozies in general, but some people who aren't familiar with that tend to steer away from cozies because they think that it's just info overload. But for us cozy lovers, if you're like me, you lean in, you thrive with that kind of stuff. You know, like, yes, I want to know exactly what the storefront looks like. How are the lights twinkling? What does it smell like? What ingredients are you mixing up? Like every little level of detail, as if I'm literally there taking in the scene for myself. And, you know, that's one of the things that make up cozies, in my opinion, and it's one of the things that I love most. Okay, so now it's time to jump into you all's feedback. Like I said, this is a discussion, so I'm actually going to go through and read off what you all think, and then, you know, obviously feel free to drop in the comments if you can think of anything else that wasn't covered here. So first up, we've got a couple, so I'm just going to kind of rattle them off. A smart sleuth, a memorable setting, a dose of humor, and avoids too many common tropes. Yes to each of those, and especially a smart sleuth, because nobody likes one of those too stupid to live amateur sleuths where you're just so frustrated you just want to throw the book out the window. So I totally agree. Here we go. A single thread that seems mundane but enjoyable and ends up being part of the mystery. That's a very specific thing, and I can see that being something that would pique people's interest, because first of all, it keeps you reading the series and it keeps you compelled, and then also when you finally get to that point to where you see the pieces come together, it's super satisfying because you did all the work by reading all of these books and following along. Another person said smart sleuth, yes. Genius law enforcement, yes. And animals and snacks, 100% yes to the snacks, though admittedly, oh, foodie cozies are a bit of a balance for me because I always get hungry and that doesn't fare well if I'm always reading about like ice cream or cookies. All right, so enough reasonable red herrings. The killer doesn't come out of left field on the last page. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I'm one where I don't try to necessarily solve the mystery as I'm reading the cozy. I'm just kind of like along for the ride. But at the same time, if it's not done well, that's really obvious. And that includes some random person being the guilty party and you have no idea who they are. Yummy food descriptions. Yes. 100%. Again, give me all of the detail, like how flaky is the crust? Does it have a soggy bottom? What color are the cherries? I mean, the cherries would be red, but you guys get what I mean. And food. Yes, I think we can all agree. Food descriptions, yes, there can never be too many of them. Well-rounded, lovable characters, and super cozy descriptions of the weather and the setting. Yes, 100%. Again, the cozy part in cozy mystery is what we're all looking for. So I want to know how cloudy it is, or if the sun is shining, or if the air smells salty because you're on the coast, and all of those wonderful features. The characters. I have to love the characters. I come for the murder, stay for the people. I love that quote. And honestly, yes, right? The murder just makes up a small portion. Like, we have to fill the other 200 pages with stuff, and it needs to be the cozy aspect. So 100% agree. Atmosphere and a good plot. Yes. And lastly, off the chart cozy vibes and great writing. Yeah, I think we can all agree, just as readers in general, great writing, we want that, but definitely cozy vibes. Like, give us the coziest in cozy mysteries. Okay, so that does it for the responses that I got from you all. But again, if you guys have more to add, or even if you want to just chime in and piggyback off of what other people have said, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, it's a discussion, but I think we're all on the same page when it comes to a lot of these. Like, we want those overly descriptive, cozy descriptions. We love anything that talks in detail about like the food and the setting and the atmosphere. We want our amateur sleuth to be capable, and for that matter, we want our police force to be capable as well. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. I thought it was super fun for myself to kind of think about things that I like, but then also to see what you guys like, because it helped me to confirm all of the things that I love about cozies. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. In the meantime, I will talk to you guys later. Bye!